Welcome to Empowered Mind, Body, Soul. I'm your host, Olivia Paige with Ascension Healing Sounds, and in today's episode, we are joined by special guest Carol Marley with Angel Wings Oracle, and she is an angelic light frequency healer. And today we're going to be talking about how she got started doing this work. Empowered Mind, Body, Soul. A podcast journey to your truth with heartfelt stories, sound healing, and life hacks.
Hi, Olivia. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for being here.
I'm excited to connect with your audience.
I'm so excited to have you here. So let's just start with, how did you start working with the angels?
I was born with this connection. So from my very earliest childhood memory, that's always just been a part of me. In childhood, my family of origin was Baptist, and they were freaked out about my gifts. And I learned they weren't necessarily good.
So how old were you that you were aware and that they became aware of these gifts?
2 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't ever remember not having this. So it's just kind of a lifetime thing. But in that religion, it was scary for them, and they really thought it might be satanic or something. And so, like, even before I could read, they made me start memorizing Bible verses. So, like, my mom would say them to me, and I'd have to repeat them back to her. And then they would say, okay, when these beings come to you, this is what you do. You say Bible verses to them, and then they'll go away.
Did you do that?
Yeah. Not always, because there were some of the light beings that came that I was really close to. So I was like on the down low, like you don't tell them. You learn young not to talk about it. But I had weird gifts. I knew things about adults that little kids shouldn't know or understand, or I knew when things were going to happen, or just weird stuff. And it just made my family super uncomfortable. So I just probably in that time from birth to 7 years old learned to put that in a really big box and almost forget it was there. It would leak out and stuff, but I just went to sleep in my story, right? And downloaded my pain story. Huge family of origin pain story.
Okay.
And so my gifts were there running in the background, but not like they had been, not more in my dream time, more in my imagination. And I learned to think, oh, I just have this really great imagination, numbing my spiritual gifts to a degree, because I just felt like, okay, they're bad and they make people uncomfortable.
So you said that you had repeated some of these Bible verses to some of these beings that had come to you, but there were others that you didn't because you became close with them. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, I wish I brought the picture in here so I could show it to you guys. Weirdly enough, so I've discovered as an adult that it was my great grandfather that I, of course, didn't know who that was back then. But there's a picture of me at about 5 years old, and you can literally see over my left shoulder his whole like beard, his hair, his nose, his mouth, his ears, everything like superimposed in the picture over my shoulder. Oh, I had a spiritual reawakening about 8 or 9 years ago, and he came through really strong, and his name was Silas. So then it connected the dots with that picture, and he was like, I've been with you always, but able to really hear me after you got older. So that made a lot of sense. And I was really led to believe that I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because she's a little strange. She's got a vivid imagination. It was affirming to see it in print right there. I didn't imagine it.
Wow. Did he talk with you? I mean, like, did you hear him speak with you?
So I had a really traumatic childhood, and there was a lot of neglect and quite a bit of abuse. And they would,
I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. So, like, my mom suffered from really severe depression and some mental stuff. And so, like, little bitty kid, 3 or 4 years old, my mom would lock me outside for the entire day in Texas in the heat. And
My goodness.
we had a tree in the corner of the yard, and they would hold my hand and say, come over here and play with us under this tree. And I was too little to know the sun would make me sick or any of that. So they would I can remember being over in the shade under that tree and playing little fairy games with them and singing songs. And
Wow.
Yeah. So they saved me in a lot of instances, or they would tell me. So I had a brother that was 7 years older than me who was really abusive to me. And they would help me know, go in your closet and play with your dolls and don't come out till we tell you, or stuff like that. Because he was
Wow.
looking for me or whatever. It was just weird things like that.
Wow. I'm sorry you went through all of that, but I'm so glad that you had spirit there with you to help you through it and to protect you
Yes.
the best that they
Yeah.
could.
And I remember that feeling of never really feeling like I was alone, like being comforted by the fact that, so jokingly, as a kid, they tell that story about, oh, yeah, the stork is the one who delivers babies. And I can remember being, I don't know, 5, 6, something like that, and then joking, talking about that. And I thought, oh, that makes so much sense. The stork just brought me to the wrong house. And then that feeling of, oh, but some of my other family came with me, and that's who's here with me. So in your child mind, you're feeling, you're making sense of stuff, but it doesn't make sense to other people. But I can remember that very definitive, oh, that's why I don't fit in here. But I have those other people that I do fit in with. And so those are my imaginary
Oh,
friends, people. So
okay.
hopefully some of your listeners
Okay.
will be able to relate to this. I think that's also part of, I call myself a purple sheep. Those purple sheep are the ones who are born into the family and they do not fit in. Like they're not like any of the rest of the family, and they're just the oddball out. And they have that feeling their whole
Yeah.
entire life. I'm very definitely one of the purple sheep.
So you said that you had turned off your abilities, or maybe not turned off, but ignored them or maybe buried them. How or when did you start to reactivate them and maybe honor them a little bit?
I don't think I reactivated them. I think so. I spent about 23 years in a really abusive marriage. And when, of course, I'm just carrying out that family of origin story unconsciously, asleep in the Maya. And so when that ended, I had been very involved in the church, very involved with God. And I had done like all these things to try to save that marriage because I had children when I wanted to save that marriage for that. And like a rat in a maze, maybe if I do this, maybe if I do that. And then towards the end of it, when I got out of it, I was so angry at my version of God at that time. And I literally, forgive me, I don't know if we're
Mhm.
allowed to say this, but I literally said, fuck you. I'm done with you. You may love other people, but you don't love me because I did all the things. And this is what it ended up. So I went through about 2 or 3 years of being angry and bitter and coming completely out of my Christianity. And it was towards the end of that third year, I got really involved with essential oils. And I don't know if
Okay.
your listeners know, but essential oils have an actual megahertz vibration that can be measured. These were like the Young Living oils or whatever. And when I got introduced to them, it was like I wanted to drink them. I was putting them in my coffee. I was taking baths with them. I was like rubbing them all over my skin. And I think what happened, I believe now we live in a vibrational universe. And I think I had been down in that poop soup vibration my whole entire life. And when I got a hold of those oils, coupled with deprogramming from all that religious stuff, I think I was actually able to access my gifts again that had been just waiting energetically there for me to get up there where I could have them. Because as a child, your vibration is really high. You're like this pure little being of light. And so I think I had access to all of that in childhood, and then it was squished out of me, right? And my vibration was lowered by my
Mhm.
pain story. And then at that point, when that happened with all those oils and everything, and I was also really starting to do mantras and begin to learn to take a little better care of myself. And I think all of those things together, my gifts busted out of that box and there was no putting them back. So literally dead people started coming and talking to me, and the movie screen in my head started playing all kinds of crazy messages to give people I barely knew. And to be honest with you, it was a little scary, because it was just so wildly out of my control.
That's pretty amazing, I think, to have such a strong connection like you do. I don't think everybody's connection is as strong as that.
I think it's all connected to how well I maintain my vibration, because I really honestly feel like on that vibrational scale of emotion, I don't know if you've ever seen that or not, but the lowest vibration is shame, and
Mm-hmm.
then goes all the way up to the purpley light of enlightenment and unconditional love and all that. I'm just like everybody else. I'm a soul here learning lessons here in Earth School, and Earth Schools can be brutal, right? There's the contrast of all of it, good and bad, and you're learning and all that. And I call everything below 200 megahertz, which is courage. Everything below that, I don't necessarily call it that, but my team calls it poop soup. And so I really feel like there's almost like a frequency net that tries to keep us asleep in the Maya and hold us in those frequencies, because that's where we're learning all of that deep stuff, right? Like we're they're caverning out all of that gunk and really teaching us at a deep level through pain and all the things we don't want. And so to wake up is a challenge, right? So those of us who have awoken in our story, that's not the norm. And there's a lot of things at play to keep us asleep. And so I think it's real easy to fall back to sleep when you meet somebody and you get in a relationship and you've got all the endorphins flowing and you're super happy, and you just unknowingly go back to sleep in your story. And the next thing you know, you wake up and you're in a karmic learning circle and you're like, oh my God, I already did this story. So just like everybody, I'm still learning soul lessons. I don't have it all figured out. And I'm just learning to be really
Yeah.
hyper focused in my now, and just make my now as vibrationally awesome as it can be. And not, my trauma story made me want to look at the past and be afraid, and look at the future and be worried and stressed and have anxiety. So that, and that's a common trauma thing in kids who've had traumatic childhoods. You want to have some measure of control so you can feel safe. And so
Right.
what my spirit team has been working on with me is to surrender and allow and face all my big boogaboo fears so that I can release them and see that they're not even really real.
I think it's important that we go through our lessons and to try to learn and evolve and, like you said, raise our frequency. But as equally, I think it's important that we allow ourselves to honor those moments when we're in that poop soup.
Absolutely. And part of what Poop Soup teaches us is how to love ourselves unconditionally. It's easy to love
Yeah,
yourself when
that's
everything's
true.
going great. You got money in the bank, you have somebody who loves you, blah, blah, blah. That's nothing. That's shallow love. The deep love comes when you've got, as recently happened to me, $46 in your account. Your rent is looming and you don't know how you're going to pay it, and your inner child is freaking out. And you're feeling all the feelings. And that's the place where the metal hits the road. Can you love yourself there? Can you take that anxiety and that panic and that stress and hold space for it, feel it, release it, even hold your inner child and comfort them, and I love you, I've got you. Look, we have 100% track rate of being okay. It's all going to work out. And it's in those places where you're building that muscle, right? It's not in the high vibration where you build the
Mhm.
muscle.
Yeah, I love that. To remember to love yourself at your low moment, to remember to love and honor yourself. And yeah, I never thought about it in that perspective. Like, I understand that it's important, like when you're in those moments, to love yourself, but something about, can you love yourself in that moment? Can you honor yourself and still appreciate yourself and still see the good in yourself and know that those low moments are also a part of you, and so they need just as much love as the good parts.
I do, so I'm a master level life coach, and I have a lot of clients I do life coaching with, and a big focus of for myself from my own childhood and with my clients is inner child healing. And a lot of that, what we were just talking about, there are pieces of you that are like time is really like a ball of yarn. And there are pieces or fragments of you that are stuck back in that traumatic situation, right? So inner child healing is about going back in time and reintegrating those fragments to create wholeness. Like for me, I showed you a picture of me at 5 years old, you'd be like, oh, she looks so sweet, so cute. I hated myself, right? Hated my life, hated myself, hated the adults around me. And once I got past it, I built like a brick wall. I don't want to talk to her. She got feelings, she can deal with it on her own. I lived that once, I'm done with that, right? And I'm going to shave that part of me off that I don't like, and I'm going to leave it back here. And then I'm going to create a projection of what I feel is acceptable. And I'm going to go out into adulthood and I'm going to be the parts of me that I'm okay with and that I feel okay about. And I'm not going to face all that other because I don't want to feel those feelings. And so part of what you just said is reintegration. And unfortunately, you can only do that through feeling the pain, right? So as a child, you didn't know how to process that kind of pain. But as an adult, you can bring
Right.
that version in your mind of that little child. You can put them in your heart. You can put your hands on your heart and you can tell them, I'm grown up now and I'm inviting you to come and live in my heart. And I'm going to be your parent now. And I'm going to make sure you have everything you need and that you're always loved. And you can feel your feelings in my body. And it's going to be okay. And I'm going to help you process them. And so it sounds really schizophrenic or whatever, but I will tell you that is the only road for me that I've found that can bring me wholeness, where I'm not just trying to numb out and keep that pain at bay, right? So it's like reparenting. I know you've heard that phrase, reparenting your inner child, so that they can mature and not be stuck in that yarn ball of time back there in all that pain.
Yeah. Inner child healing is so important, but it's definitely work that can make you feel uncomfortable because you're revisiting those uncomfortable parts of yourself, but it's definitely
I
important.
have a funny story that if you want to hear it before we leave this topic. So I was working with a lady. I
Sure.
don't even remember her name now. It was at the very beginning of my whole inner child healing journey, and a friend turned me on to her. So we did a Zoom session. And so she could literally channel your inner child, which I was still learning about all that. And so it was just crazy to me. So she easily connected with the version of me that I was in childhood, was this sweet, people pleasing, good girl. And I knew that one was in there. But she says, oh, but there's another one. And I'm like, really? She's, oh, yeah, this one's really angry. She said, she looks like Merida from Brave. She's, your good little girl is saying we don't let her talk. And I'm like, really? Okay. And it all just seemed cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to me. And then the lady said, okay, I'm going to channel her. And that angry version of me said, fuck God. And I just went, what? I wasn't even completely out of religion at that point. And she said, she's looking at a church and she's saying, fuck that God. That's not the God I know. And then my good girl said, see, that's why we don't let her talk.
Mm.
But anger was a scary thing for me. It was never safe enough for me to be angry. And so there was a whole version of me I didn't even know was in there because I was so far removed from the feeling of anger that this lady helped me connect to, and I'm incredibly grateful. But it was just funny. I thought how the good girl said, yeah, that's why we don't let her talk.
So, did you connect with that part of you a little bit
I
deeper?
have, and it's led me to some really cool things. Like I have begun working, I work with the power of the creation rays and the ruby red fire of personal empowerment. I did lack that greatly. And working with her and getting comfortable with her has helped me open up to igniting that ruby red flame of personal empowerment in me and not being afraid to use it to burn down what is not wanted in my life and to, with passion and fire, build up what is wanted in my life, which in the past I didn't feel safe enough. to have fire. My brother was a rageaholic. And so, like, you walked on eggshells and he might punch you in the stomach or he might throw you into a wall. You didn't know. And so that anger was really scary to me. And it created some frozen places inside of me. And so that little angry girl helped me like unlock that trauma and begin to heal it.
That's amazing. And maybe to connect with anger in a way that wasn't going to be so harmful.
I've had different things I've done as I've been working with that. So one of the things I did, I was a dumping ground for people's emotions. I'm a hyper empath. And so I just let people dump everything. And I thought it was my job to just take it, hold it for them. So when I began to really get in touch with, hey, I am not a dumping ground for people's negative emotions. I had a therapist at that time that helped me, and she had me get a plastic bat from the dollar store. And she said, I want you to pile some pillows up on your bed. And she was this little Irish lady. Her name was Mary. She was very cool. So she had me get in warrior pose and raise the bat above my head and scream really loud and come down and just beat the crap out of the pillows. And I now realize what was happening is all that stuck energy that I just held onto. Like I might weigh a certain amount, but really I weighed 500 pounds of energy crap I was holding. And so as I used the force of that anger, I was like breaking up all that concrete so that life force prana could begin to flow again. So it's a whole different way of looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what angelic light frequency healing is?
So I really, all I do, and I know that you're a channel, so you're going to understand this, is the more you can get out of the way, the better the stuff is that's coming through. So really, I just try to be a very surrendered channel, and I set a lot of intention around this is what I'm willing to allow in. So I have boundaries around what I'm letting come in. I was given the gift of light language a couple of years ago, and it comes through like frequency medicine. It looks, I know you've probably seen people who draw in light language that saw these swirly
Mhm.
patterns. So when I'm working with somebody and the light language comes through, it's really weird because it's different dialects. So it seems to be connected to whatever their star seed origin is. So it may sound totally different from
Okay.
one person to the other. And that's like their family of origin starseed family comes in and they're like, we're going to roto-rooter your energy system with these light frequency medicine. And we're going to get in there quick while we have a chance. But it's like they've been waiting to do this. And so that is part of it. I do biofield tuning. So I use tuning forks. I can catch stuck, gross stuff and clear it out of the field. And I trained as a pranic healer for many years, and it's not pranic healing, but it's similar in that it's just angelic, or angelic seems to be a religious word, so I don't really know. It's very high light frequency healing energy that comes through, almost like Reiki, but different. I don't know if that explains it, but that's
Okay.
what it is.
When you do a session for someone, like a healing session, is this something that you do in person or virtually or both?
Both.
Or
So I had only been doing in-person energy healing work. And isn't it interesting how we limit ourselves? It's, oh, I don't think I could do it virtually. They might not feel it and they might not get as much or whatever. We have to continually be breaking through the limitations we put in our own mind about our stuff. So recently, I started working with a few clients in other states, and it just came about synchronistically. And during a session, all this light language just started coming through, and I'm sitting there using my hand and I'm seeing all these things. And it was crazy because the person on the other side immediately felt a shift, immediately felt the thing that we were working on change. And I was like, oh, I can do this virtually. And so I'm constantly learning and evolving and outgrowing my own limitations. So that's a long answer to your
that's good.
question, but I have some people who prefer to come in person because they just like the feeling of it, being able to feel the energy flow through them in that
Hmm.
way. But I'm starting to work with people who live really far away from me, and it's working the same way. I had one lady I was working on, we were working on igniting her ruby red fire of empowerment, and she got so hot she started sweating, and she was in Georgia, and I'm in Kansas. So
Yeah. Nice. I do all of my work virtually, and not all of it. I sometimes work in different shops doing readings in person, but all my healing work I do virtually. Actually, I do them by recording. So I record my session because I do sound healing and with light language, and I sing, and that's how I clear the energy is using the light language singing. And so I just record the session and then send it to the person, and then they listen to that, and then that's when they receive all the healing.
that's super cool. Singing comes through in mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there must be something about singing versus just the words. I don't know, but I just try to allow whatever to come through. The singing feels really good when you're
Yeah.
doing it for you. I started to say, hey, I would like to receive benefit every time that I do this for somebody. I have been feeling that. So that was a new thing too.
Nice. Yeah, that's nice. I actually set the intention a long time ago. I was like, every time I do light language, it clears my throat chakra. So
Yay!
I just have that intention now.
Love that.
So whether I'm doing it for somebody else or whatever, because sometimes I'm just randomly doing it, grocery shopping or driving in the car or whatever. But yeah. So you have written a book. Can you tell us about your book?
I did. It was so crazy last summer. So I taught a workshop. I have students. I teach light worker classes, and I have students, and I do a lot of work with the pendulum. And so I just off the cuff did this workshop with them on the pendulum. They were on the struggle bus with getting their pendulums to do what they wanted them to do. And it was supposed to be like 2 hours. It ended up being 4. And everybody was just like, oh my God, that was so amazing. And so this one girl who was my student, she's, you have to write a book. And I'm like, I have no idea how to make that happen. And I had some resistance around it, right? Because I'm not good with certain things and I let that limit me. You've heard me do it probably since you've known me. But it was just the craziest thing. She said, come on, I'm going to be your partner. I'll read your stuff. You write, I'll read it. And then I had another student, he's very good with everything technical. And he literally ended up putting it all together and formatting it so it could be done on Amazon or whatever. And we got it all done and it was ready almost to go to print. And I got deathly sick and ended up in the hospital for 22 days, had 2 surgeries, and I almost died.
Oh my
And so
goodness.
one night in the hospital, well, I mean, I was on drugs. I'm going to just tell you, I was on drugs, but the whole room filled up with these little orbs of light. And there was like this really swirly vortexy thing over here by the door. And I really overwhelmingly felt like I could go. It was an exit point if I wanted to take it. And I can remember thinking, I want to go, but I really want to publish my book before I go. So I stayed
Wow.
and so I got out of the hospital and we published the book. And so that it's been quite a journey. It's been amazing. And I've sold the book all across the world. So I've had people in Germany and France and England and Canada. It's been super fun. And sometimes they'll send me pictures holding the book, and I love it when that happens.
Aw, that's awesome. Where can people find you if they'd like to connect with you? And where can they find your book?
So my book is available on Amazon, and it's called Angelic Gifts of the Pendulum by Carol Marley. And you can just search that and it'll come right up. And you can find me on my website, www.angelwingsoracle.com. And you can send me a message, or I have a pretty big Facebook and freakishly enough, a TikTok that's growing by the day. So you can find me in either. I say that about TikTok because I used to make a lot of jokes about TikTok being for the hummingbird generation because it's quick little things. And now I actually like it. So I had to eat all those words. But yeah, I'm on TikTok and Facebook under Angel Wings Oracle.
Okay. Can you show us the
I
book?
can. I don't know if I can get it on. There we go. So it's called Angelic Gifts of the Pendulum, and it does have pictures. My student So that is Paul, who helped me get the book to print, and Rachel, who inspired me to do the book. And he was able to put all these really great pictures in there. So this covers everything from putting programs on jewelry and candles, like with peace and calming and healing and grounding and different things like that. So like all the jewelry that you see me wearing has got programs on it. So the pendulum is like a booster, like a frequency booster. We just
Okay.
draw in those high light frequencies in the beings I'm connected to, and the pendulum boosts it. So it shows you how to clear your energy with a pendulum. If you're having physical pain, how to clear it out of your body and send it to the earth. If you're having emotional pain, how to clear your pets. That's been popular. And then also we did a little thing about your plants. So you have to have a wooden pendulum to work with the plants, but a lot of the light workers that I work with are deeply connected to plants and animals. And we covered some of
Hmm.
that, and how to create a sanctuary bubble so that you won't be miserable if you have to go to Walmart. To clear the energy of your car with your pendulum, because you don't think about all the feelings you feel in your car, and then how you're picking up all the road
Hmm.
rage crap all around you. And so there's processes in there for all of that.
Nice. Sounds like an awesome book.
It's like having a baby. I think my baby's beautiful, but everybody thinks their baby's beautiful. So there are a lot of great pendulum books. Mine is for people who want to work more with those higher light frequency beings. So it's like how to, I think of energy as like radio stations, and you can pick up from any radio station on that. And so all of this is geared around picking up 200 and above.
So, are you currently on a book tour?
It's not really a book tour, but I am about to go on a little tour. It's slowly evolving. I am leaving next
Okay.
week, and I'm going to Crown Point, Indiana, and I will be at a place called Boundless Retrieval for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and doing private sessions, and I'm going to teach a class. And then I'm going to Grand Rapids, Michigan for a few days. So I don't have a specific store or something that I'm working with in Grand Rapids, but if you wanted to reach out to me, I am in a place where I could see people. So if there's anyone up there in that area, I don't know if this will be broadcast by that time, but I will be up in the Grand Rapids area. And then I'm looking in the fall to go towards Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and winter maybe to California. We're still putting all the pieces together.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, on this tour, you're going to be doing like workshops or doing in person healing, or what will you be
All of the
doing?
above. So if you are a place that would like to have me come, I really am being very surrendered and letting. So the angels said we're calling this the Gypsy Angels Tour. The angels want to travel along. They kept showing me Metatron's Flower of Life that has like that grid with the little points. And they said, we want to travel on that grid and light it up. And so bringing our light together in community and support, and just helping each other shine brighter. And so that's what this is all about. So I'm going to go wherever they say. And they've literally said that as we travel, we're aerating the ground to be able to receive these light codes that are coming in. I had to be super surrendered to trust enough to do this because it doesn't make any sense in my life. But as I began to trust, it's the magic's starting to come in. So all the big pieces are starting to come in. I've connected in freakish ways with people all over the country. I have a menu I can send if anybody's interested of all the different offerings. So I can do private sessions. I have a list of classes I can teach. I have a list of workshops I can teach. I can do gallery readings. So there's just all kinds of stuff to offer. And we want it to be that synergy. So we want it to benefit the host and the hosted and every single person that participates. And so there's some stuff in there talking about that. And really, Spirit has laid on my heart so strongly. This is a time in the world that we need to work really hard on creating community. That community is the medicine.
Hmm.
It's not capitalism, and it's not communism. We need to come back here to the middle, to communityism. And that's going to be the medicine. And so literally I am going to travel around and try to help people do that in whatever way Spirit opens the door for me.
That's amazing. I'm excited for you. It sounds like an amazing opportunity that you're going to bring to people all over the country. And I think they're really going to benefit from working with you, because I think you just seem so awesome and so talented. And is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Gosh, I don't know. I just feel like I wish if I had a magic wand and I could just sprinkle fairy dust around on people. The thing that I would want to impart to you is find the magic within you. Find the magic within you. Find the beauty in your life. Find the joy, even the littlest, tiniest moments of it. And what Spirit's been showing me is allow the beautiful garden of light to bloom within you in this moment of your now. And if you can do that, then you are helping everyone around you. It's not about you going and letting people dump on you so that they can feel better. It's not about you managing other people's emotions or trying to be the one who holds everything together. It is about you blooming. So if I could get everybody to pull back to that place where they're nurturing and caring and loving themselves and finding the thing they're passionate about and allowing themselves to creatively bloom, and that is what's going to make the world a better place. I've connected with somebody in Georgia and we're working on an idea. We're calling it the Star Nursery, where we help moms learn how to nurture the light in their children, how to teach them principles of how to manage their energy, and how to have a button, a dial that controls their fire, and how to teach them how to go to ground with their emotions and stuff like that. So these are grassroots energy things that I'm trying to build as I go, because we want to reach that next generation to change what's going to happen for them. And we want to change what's happening now for us as much as possible. And that is not done through hate. It's not done through division. It's not done through I'm right and you're wrong. It is done by the universal law of one. I am you and you are me. And when we come together in healing in that place of allowance, that is where the magic sauce is at. And that's where the good things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree for sure. I will make sure that all of your links are in the show notes. So if people want to find you and connect with you or find where you're going to be on this tour that you're doing, that they are able to do that.
Thank you so much. I really so much appreciate you. And I ask that you would just be blessed beyond measure for the way that you're boosting the light of every person that comes on your show, and that it would just magnify back to you tenfold everything that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here, Carol. I really appreciated our time together.
Thank you. I really appreciate you and everyone listening. I'm sending you all this giant pink hug. And if nothing else good happened in your day, just know that some little person in Kansas loves you and is sending you pink light and wants you to be happy.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me in today's episode. Be sure to check the show notes for guest links and other helpful information. I'm your host, Olivia Paige, and you can find me on all the social media platforms at Ascension Healing Sounds.